Good. Okay. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. We will start with a roll call. McKee here. Bottoма.
Present.
Barenkamp.
Here.
Nichols.
Here.
Perfect. Alrighty, thank you. If you'd like to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, agenda approval. Staff seems like there's a few additions and, or a few subtractions, an addition or two, and maybe some modifications.
Correct, Mayor. So I just want to update item 7B and item 7C have been removed. We have added item 7T, which is the work session schedule for the third quarter. We have added item 9A, which is a request for approval for conditional and final offer for an assistant city administrator. We have removed item 11A. And we have removed item 15A2. These are all the staff modifications.
14A2?
14A2, thank you, Mayor. 14A2.
Sounds good. Anything from council? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Let's see here. Representatives, or commission representatives today, we have Corinne Brumman and Tom Anderson. I've seen them both here today. There we go. Perfect. Thank you, guys. And then we will go right on to open forum. So Jay, do you want to walk us through?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to come up to the microphone. Please state your name, your address, and speak to the dais about whatever issue you may want to discuss this evening for an item not on the agenda. And you're limited to 5 minutes in your discussion. The first person that we have a comment card for, Mr. Mayor, is Jason Bartels.
Okay.
Thank you for recognizing me, but I'm on the agenda 8C, the Oswald Farm.
I apologize. We will talk to him later, Mr. Mayor. So we only have one card then. That would be Mr. Josh McKinney.
I'm also on 8C.
I need to read. My glasses are fogged up. Mayor, I don't have any
Would anyone like
cards.
to speak on a non-agenda item?
Michelle, you want to handle that part from now on?
Demotion right off the bat.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to be out in the car.
It's been a long day, man.
It is.
Thank you for what you do.
It looks like there's no takers, so we will move on to presentations, and we have two today. First is proclamation of National Public Works Week, and we do have a resolution that's in our consent agenda that I'll read here quickly, and then if anyone else would like to make any additional comments, feel free to. Resolution recognizing National Public Works Week and public works staff. Whereas the City of Corcoran finds it important to recognize the work of the city's Public Works Department, and whereas National Public Works Week is May 19th through 25th, 2024, and whereas as part of National Public Works Week, efforts are recognized within the city's Public Works Department staff and includes director, superintendent, manager, crew leader, maintenance workers, administrative assistant, and part-time seasonal workers. And whereas the city recognizes the efforts made in acting the city's vision and goals while providing, responding, collaborating, and improving services to residents of Corcoran, including maintenance of utility and street infrastructure, stormwater systems, parks/amenities.
Luke Botema.
I'm a
crickets
dad.
really
It's my son.
Equipment fleet, facilities, and dedicated community service. Whereas the city recognizes the Public Works Department's role in emergency management services, and whereas the City of Corcoran recognizes the time, energy, and dedication provided by the city's Public Works Department. Now therefore be it resolved by the City of Corcoran, the City Council hereby honors the Public Works staff and recognizes National Public Works Week. There we go. And
Can we add?
yes, please.
So our Public Works is an organization here that they don't get a lot of praise. It's only critiques. But if they went away,
Be chaos.
yeah, it would absolutely be insane. And so it's important for them to get the recognition that they do. They do a lot for our town. and they care a lot. You stop and say hi to them. They just don't come in for the pay. They're in because they care a lot, and they save us a ton of money. We buy used equipment from other towns that they fix. They turn other towns' fire trucks into our trucks that water our streets. It's nuts. And so, I appreciate them a lot.
For sure. Dean?
I'll add one more thing. There was a significant accident at the intersection of County Road 19 and 30 about a week ago, folks. Public Works was one of the first groups to respond to help control traffic until other responders could go. Obviously, they were close, but talk about above and beyond. I recognize that I saw it. It's my neighborhood, and I truly appreciate our Public Works guys to jump in like that and do what they did. So if they haven't been seen or recognized for that, I'm doing so today too. So that was pretty cool.
Thanks for pointing that out. Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. We're very lucky to have the group that we do, and all of our staff, but particularly in Public Works.
I remember hearing about a month ago, we had a situation where we were notified that one of our sewage pumping stations had gone offline, and Public Works responded and hand pumped it for an hour or two until they could figure out what was going on. So when things go wrong, they go very wrong very quickly, and it's good to have a team that's able to respond quickly to those kinds of emergencies as well.
For sure.
Mayor, if I could just add a couple other things that I think are special about our Public Works Department. First, if you take the collective commitment to the community, it totals almost 8 decades of service to the community for everybody that's serving in that department. So we have a lot of longevity in the Public Works Department, a lot of commitment over a lot of years. They maintain that proud rural character. How do they do that? We have 34 miles of gravel roads. That's unique in Hennepin County, and it takes a lot of attention in order to make sure that they're safe and navigable, and you see them out there doing that. But also in doing that, the way that they do it, I am very proud to receive lots of compliments. They're cutting down trees along the side, getting brush off, and when you talk about going above and beyond, I think that's the character of the team that we have serving. And so I just, when you look at our vision statement of who we want to be as a community, Public Works helps protect that vision, and I just wanted to state that.
Okay. With that, we will move on to our second presentation, which is an oath of office for Counselor to be Mark Lanterman.
Okay. Mark, if you want to come up to the front here.
I, Mark Lanterman,
Do solemnly swear
do support the Constitution of the United States,
to support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and to discharge faithfully,
and to discharge faithfully,
justly,
justly,
and impartially
the duties of the office
of interim council member for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
of interim councilman for the city of Corcoran, Minnesota,
and to do so with my best judgment
and to do so with my best judgment
and ability,
and ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
Congrats, Mark. If we can get out of the way. Never hugged me when I got it.
Yes, I hug you all the time.
We do have fun sometimes, so if we offend anybody, too bad. I'm
Okay.
kidding.
On to consent. We have a pretty large consent agenda consisting of items 7A and then D through T. Does anyone want to pull anything?
I would like to pull T.
T, okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could do Q,
Q,
R, and S.
R, and S.
Real quick, won't hurt a bit.
Okay. Anything else? Nope.
I move to approve consent items A through P.
A,
Second.
D through P? Because B and C were.
Except for the removed?
Yeah. Okay, we have motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
John, second. So then we'll go to we'll just do it in alphabetical order, so.
I
Q-
can do them all three at the same
Perfect.
time, if
Go
that's
for
all right, Mr. Mayor. Folks, if you're online or you're here and wondering what I'm pulling, the liquor license for St. Thomas Church, the Corcoran Country Days event application, and the Hamel Rodeo event application. If you're new to Corcoran, these are all gems in our city. There's a number of people that come to our city and start having issues related to noise and some of the things we do. These are all fun things that have been going on for a long time. So I'm gonna apologize now. You can certainly call with concerns and stuff, but these mean a lot to our city. Not only getting the group and the family together, but meet new people. Come to them, enjoy them. It just doesn't happen in other cities, so please.
Can I agree with you except for the apology part? Make no apologies to city people?
You cannot apologize. I'm kinder and gentler than you are, so.
Rescinding my apology. And I agree with everything else.
I mean it, folks. All of these are huge events. If people don't realize, a number of them are huge, how do I want to say it, money makers for groups and such around here, the Hamel Lions, Corcoran
they're not
Lions,
huge
the
money
Jaycees, the tremendous amount of money given back to the community. All of them are nonprofits and those kind of things. And if somebody wants to start challenging these things and taking these things away, you're taking away what the core of our city is. And it's doing country stuff, so.
Some fun events. There's also a couple other ones coming up too, so keep.
Yes, there's many more
Summer.
coming, so I'll
Can I-
probably make the same statements.
Can I make a motion to
Sure.
approve and
Q, R, and S.
QR and S and with Dean's comments?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
On to T.
T, I think I'll lose this vote, but my preference would be to address those concerns during council time and not family time, so I'd rather lose sleep than lose family time. And I would ask we don't have special sessions that start at 5:30, but extend council beyond what would be expected as our time commitment.
Just to clarify, this is for the 13th of June, the 11th of July, and 8th of August?
I won't be there the 13th anyways, but what I'd prefer is that council gets extended rather than coming early, just for the sake of spending time with our families.
Yeah, I guess it depends kind of on the topics to some extent. Like preliminary budget, I think we've typically done a work session on
Yeah,
that one.
I would say we should do it during regular council
Okay.
time.
Any other thoughts on that from the rest of the council? Or from staff?
Could I ask one question, Councilmember Bottoма?
Yeah,
During the work session, I did hear you comment on the value of
Yeah.
that collaboration.
yes.
And so we would have missed out on that collaborative opportunity had we not had the work session. And I think that that's one of the things that a work session lends itself to, more so than a general session for the council. And considering some of the things that we're trying to do before we get to a decision, that's one of the reasons why staff is recommending work sessions, to achieve what you
And I,
recognized as value
Yeah, I
earlier this
did.
evening.
I did. We could have back and forth with planning during a regular council session, couldn't we?
We probably
But-
could. I don't know.
But we're not having this isn't with planning, this is a regular session.
No, in this case,
with-
it would be with staff about, for example, the budget, there's some, before we're ready for a decision, we need some guidance.
Yeah.
And so that's an opportunity for us to have a collaborative guidance without it being in the same environment as this.
Yeah,
And some of the other discussions that we've had before we get ready to make a decision to ensure that we're moving in the direction that we want to. in a spirit of.
Fair
To
enough.
your concern, I think maybe like if on the 13th that you said you're not gonna be there.
Yeah.
You could set up a one-on-one probably with whoever from staff to do the iPad stuff.
I think that most people are against I'm just saying, I'd rather do discussions on the budget during regular council, so I could eat dinner with my family and stay past midnight, than start at 5:30 and at 6:30, wait a half an hour, then
Gotcha.
start council.
So the June 13th session is scheduled to give you training on Granicus and how to use the new devices, and that doesn't seem like appropriate time of council meeting use time.
Well, I won't be here anyways.
We'll catch it.
I'll be light on the Granicus.
Well, I think maybe we,
I just wanted to express my
Yep.
opinion.
for sure.
That's it.
Yeah, I think maybe we
You
take
can
it on a
vote for it
case-by-case
as
basis.
consent. It'll probably go 4-1, but
Yep.
that's fine.
No, I'm glad you raised your concern on it. I will make that motion actually to approve 7T. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Yep. Let's just make sure to have a maybe set up a one-on-one session for John for the Granicus stuff.
That's not during lunch or dinner time.
Fact.
I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that shouldn't be too
I won't actually run Granicus anyways.
fair enough. Okay, catching up. There we go. On to planning business. So, because we have a public hearing first, I'm thinking we should do that, and then we'll have a public comment opportunity for the items B through E afterwards, or we can even break that down further if we need to. But let's start with, I'll open the public hearing for item
It's, just leave it, that's nothing, thank you.
8A.
It's okay here, leave it alone.
Or Natalie, did you want to start us?
It's actually Kendra's item. Did you have
Kendra.
one?
I do have just one slide.
Go for
This is a procedural item. This is a vacation of a drainage and utility easement at Rush Creek Reserve. Because it's a public hearing, I did just do a slide that just shows the location of it. But it is vacating what is a standard drainage and utility easement over Outlot F of Rush Creek Reserve Second. That is being vacated contingent upon approval of the final plat that you just approved. So if you go to the next slide, this is for the final phase of the development. That area outlined in blue is Outlot F that has been platted as Rush Creek Reserve Fourth. So this is a procedural item to vacate that drainage and utility easement. The engineer has reviewed it and has no concerns. So with that, on the next slide, we recommend approval. Oh, this was just
That is.
get through that. I think at the end is the motion for the vacation. It's actually the next one, because this was the, in case the first one got pulled from consent. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. And then there. Move to adopt resolution 59 approving the vacation is our recommendation.
Sounds good. So I will go ahead and open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak on this item, now's your chance. Want to come up to the microphone? And if not, I'm getting the feeling not, we will, I will make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Can I ask about that?
Sure.
Would we actually be able to legally vote no on that?
To close the hearing?
No. Moving on to the vote on the.
To vote no on the easement vacation?
Yeah.
I would think if it's conforming with,
So why wouldn't it be on consent?
Neither the public
because of the
hearing.
public hearing.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
But yeah, otherwise it's perfect for consent.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
May I comment?
Yep.
If we're on that stage. I've talked to a number of the neighbors along 116 that abut this on the east side of 116, west side of this area and such. A huge concern of theirs is there's no brush, no trees or anything that is going to be impacted on their property, correct? It goes up to the property line, there'll be silt fences put in, those kind of things, the road installed, everything done properly going forward. I don't want any oopses. The nightmares that they've lived the last many years related to this parcel, trees getting cut down that were theirs, that that whether or not it happened or not, I can say it's just, these folks have been there a long time. They haven't stood in the way of things and such. I just want to make sure that we will quickly respond as a city and our group to address any issues that they may or may not have related to this. It's butting right up against their property line. So I'd want to give them some assurance that it shouldn't impact their property whatsoever. The property line is defined, stay off, don't even need to cross over, correct?
That's right, all the improvements are on MI's property, there are no impacts. In fact, there's a retaining wall that's near the property line that we've worked with them to make sure is actually on the MI property, so they redesigned that retaining wall. So our engineering team is out there, they have a pre-con,
Okay.
so I feel confident that we should be able to avoid any of those issues.
Thank you. I wanted to bring it up. So they've expressed concerns and I told them I'd bring it up. So thank you.
Thanks for bringing it up. Any other concerns or questions on this one? No, otherwise
There was one more, not necessarily from that neighborhood, but do the people in Rush Creek understand that there is going to be construction traffic through some of their city streets to get to this parcel to develop? There's going to be continued noise, those kind of things. We've had these issues at some of our other neighboring neighborhoods and such. So everybody knows and understands it's going to be noisy for a little while longer.
I think those are two different questions, but,
Okay.
I mean, they bought into a development that's under construction,
Okay.
so I believe that the developer tells them that there are future phases, but
How much do they hear it? I understand.
So this
So
hasn't, the phasing hasn't drastically changed from when it was initially approved, I
No.
don't believe.
no, this is very consistent with the approved phasing plan.
this is the last phase.
Correct.
And then the road going in up here is,
Yeah, and Jay, if you want to show that image, this is the cul-de-sac on the east side, so fortunately, it has little impact through existing neighborhoods. It will come in, if you go to the, whoops, you gotta go back, sorry.
go to the pretty colored one.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking about, which is right there. So you can see they'll come in the main road, they won't be going by where people's driveways are, and then they'll turn right where the purple and yellow are. That's the fourth phase on the right
Yep.
side there. So at least limited impact on the existing homeowners, but certainly anytime there's construction, whether they live in this neighborhood or adjacent, there are impacts to
Yep,
construction.
we've heard it all a lot, and it's one of those things that there's not much we can do, but there's certainly a number of people that expect something different, so, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
We typically, that would have been during the public hearing, but if you have a quick question, we can.
The question I had is, this directly behind our house.
If you could come up to or could you bring the mic to him?
I can talk loud enough. All I wanted to find out, they're gonna put that street right behind our place, behind our property, and it's, like Gene told me, it's gonna be with, 15 feet in from our, the other way from our property, so there'll be a 15-foot, what you call it there, buffer area there. And how about a fence going across?
So there
Is
isn't,
that part of the plan?
I'd have to default to our planner on that.
There is no permanent fence proposed to be installed. There is some silt fence that gets installed during construction, but in terms of a permanent fence, that is not part of the development
Okay, is
approval.
there a reason why it's not?
I think it just wasn't
I
proposed.
think it should be a fence back there. I see along the north side where they've got a street going, they put a big rock fence, big boulder fence all the way across there. Why shouldn't they put just a plain fence behind our property to kind of separate us from that road?
What's your address? Just
Our addresses, we're just across the road here on 8025 County Road 116.
So I'm not blinding anybody, John, they're right, yep, there you go, the mouse is about where they're at.
okay. Oh, okay.
And I think their concerns, if I can speak for them, is people going in the backyard, walking through and start walking on their private property, those kind of things. I don't know if we talk fence or not, but, just something bordering them. Don't know if the future property owners would put in a fence or not, so.
Yeah, some may, and I don't think there's anything prohibiting a individual property owner from putting a conforming fence in.
Correct. You can put up a fence in the rear yard up to the property line.
Could you put a fence there?
Pardon?
Could you put a fence there?
I don't see why I would put a fence there. It should be just something that the contractor that's done all that work back there, put all those houses in, and he's made it kind of a mess to start with.
Yeah.
And he messed up the drainage situation too. He cut down some of our trees. I think it's only right that he should be able to put a fence up.
Fair enough.
And I think he can afford it too.
I'm just
A
asking.
lot more than I could.
Well, we appreciate you bringing that up. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem, there isn't a fence in the plans. It would have had to be something that was from the get-go approved. Can't, kind of at this phase, can't add additional requirements. But as John suggested, potentially that would be a route if it became a problem in the future. Obviously not as ideal, but
Again, it's private property and those kind of things. I think the parks have done a good job routing the sidewalk in the park away from those backyards and stuff. It's a matter of private properties, stay off and go from there. I've walked their backyard a number of times. They've got a beautiful little parkway and walkway back there for themselves to enjoy and such. And they've done some neat things back there. And again, I'm nervous about silt fences, those kind of things. They gotta stay on M&A's property. They cannot go into these folks' private properties and such, so.
for sure. Jeremy?
Thanks.
I've got a question. I'm not sure if we have the right person here to answer this, but if someone comes on another person's property and cuts down their trees, is there a civil penalty for that? I know we don't have Matt here.
I will get back to you on that, Councilmember. I don't know often. I would presume that if you're destroying somebody else's private property, there would be consequences, so call the police. But as far as immediate response, other than calling the police because someone's destroying the property,
I'm just curious if whatever restitution is available might cover the cost of your fence. That might be a good thing to follow up on after the fact.
Point.
Can you keep us in the loop as to what happens if there's a civil situation, please?
I'd appreciate it.
Okay.
They've got my number.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Also, sir, could you please give me your address? That will help me in following up.
If you just want to,
8025. A house with a bear in the yard.
Thank you, sir.
A carved bear, not the one that's here tonight, so.
Yeah.
The one that
Oh,
wears
yeah, no,
blaze orange
yeah,
in the, does their bear wear blaze orange in the fall?
That's the
yeah,
one.
I know exactly what
My
it is.
wife
Sorry.
dresses it up all the time.
Nice.
I love it.
For all
Yes.
different occasions.
Yes,
love
I love it.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question, and during public comment, you want me to stand up there?
If you could, yeah.
Okay. I missed David Foy, 8115 County 116, and I didn't know this was on tonight. My biggest question is, and some of you, I know Mr. Mayor and others have known about flooding. I'm immediately north of M&I's property, along with Karen Lyman Good and some other neighbors. And over the years, we've had issues with water flooding, and some of you are aware of that. And if you approve this tonight, I'm wondering what kind of hammer's left, since this, I believe, is the final phase to approve. What kind of hammer's left with M&I to finish what they've already started on my land, my neighbor's land, and things that are left undone. And we're in the finishing the second season of construction with things left undone, unsafe, a little bridge over the creek, that kind of thing, cleanup that's been talked about, improved grass seeding, et cetera, just minor things. If you approve this, I'm just curious if there's any hammer left, because the developers got what they wanted and needed, and we're left with water issues and some unsafe crossing over the creek.
We do have escrow. So we have money that they have given us to ensure that they in good faith follow through on their promises. So we keep the escrow until we close out. So that is one, to use your word, hammer.
Who specifically would I talk to in the city then to make sure that it's done this year? Because we've gone through 2 complete seasons now without it being done.
You can give me a call, sir.
Okay.
Good, sorry.
Thank
What's
you.
the,
Appreciate
what's the
that.
process on, because many developments have multiple phases. When is that escrow specifically for potential problems in this phase close out? Does it,
Maybe when they.
At the end of
close
the
and turn over
entire-
phase, yeah.
everything?
So
So it
no,
could be
no.
7 years?
No, so it closes out by phase.
Okay.
And we still haven't closed out some phases. Escrow is something that we're monitoring all the time, and one of the challenges that we have with our escrow program, you're bringing up, that we can have as many as, in this development, 4 phases going on.
Yeah.
In which they haven't closed a particular phase, and there's things that are still due. We're still managing the escrow for that, as they're submitting escrow for the next phase.
They've brought up this concern for like 6 years on this very specific property, so I just want to make sure it gets done.
We did last year adopt a policy around phase closure. If Kevin were here, he could probably speak to it. But we had similar issues with other developers not completing. And we gave pretty firm direction last year that those needed to close this year. We may need to have similar conversations with.
And that was more on the scale of, we have in another development, 10 phases from a decade ago
Yeah.
that still aren't closed, closed. But same kind of principle potentially could be looked at if it became an issue
Yeah.
here. And I think that maybe is a better hammer, to use your word, than what this really is. I don't know that this is much. I think this is kind of something that, to John's earlier comment, needs to be approved because it's conforming with the preliminary plan.
Yeah, I think we approve this, but to your point, follow-up makes sense. I think especially if there's safety issues that have to get resolved off-site.
And also to follow up how we do closure, I think you're aware, I've been pretty candid since I've arrived, that how we manage escrows, I'm trying to simplify that and also ensure that we have a good understanding of where we're at in each of those cases. And they're super complex because many of these developments have, as the mayor said, even as many as 10 phases, and ensuring that a particular action is tied to a particular phase is challenging. But to reassure you, we are paying attention to escrows, and to reassure the residents, please reconnect with me what those are specifically, because we want to make sure that we're closing up on holding people accountable for the things that they promise. And a key thing for me, this is the first time, I wasn't here 6 years ago, I've been here 6 months. This is the first time that I've heard about it. And also I would say that that doesn't mean that staff is being negligent. That means that they're managing complex things and they might not have a solution at this time. And so thank you again for bringing it up and raising it as a concern so that we can give it appropriate attention.
Yeah, I just want to clarify, the potential for something was brought up 6 years ago, and now this is kind of the first I've heard of, like, we need to follow up on that. So
Okay.
I'm not saying that, I'm just saying we should just take care of it now, not, it's just been on our radar.
I do want to say that because we've gotten good public feedback, and again, if you see something, say something. We can't respond, we're horrible at mind reading, but we try to be very responsive as residents and council members make us aware of issues in the community. We take a very proactive approach. Doesn't always mean that we get the outcome that we want in the timeline we desire, But I can reassure you that it's not ignored. We're at least gonna address it, and then we're gonna come back with an update on where we are today. And at the very least, you need accurate current information. And I can promise you that we will do our best to get that. We may not get the outcome you desire today, but we will get information so you know where we're at today.
There's nobody here from M&I assume.
I believe that Emily is online.
Okay, so they're listening. Thank you.
Yep.
If I could, I have a question for Kendra. It's good to see you. I see on the agenda item, it states action required approval. And because of that, it's my understanding then that this council is bound by decisions made by prior councils, and that this council has very limited discretion. Basically, we don't have a choice but to approve this. So if I want to vote no, I can't vote no. Do I understand that correctly?
I don't feel like I can answer that. I'll maybe defer to Jay on that. I mean, I think in terms of the final plat, the city's discretion is limited to whether it complies with the preliminary plat approvals. And on the vacation, we do have more discretion, but at the end of the day, the vacation is unneeded. And so we do recommend approval of that. So I'm not sure which item you were referring to, but in terms of can you vote no, I'll defer to Jay on that.
And unfortunately, I told legal counsel that they wouldn't be needed this evening because I really would rely on his expertise in order to accurately respond to that. My limited understanding aligns with the way that you describe it, is that by statute, we have some certain requirements, but I would also not want to commit to that because of the complexity of the legal issues. And if you watch development and the legal concerns around it, we want to make sure that we are doing things, and our attorney ensures that we are doing things aligned so that the city is not making decisions that's going to get council or the city at large in trouble, that also protects the interests of our residents. So,
I think the way I'd interpret it is, if you think that it's in compliance with what was approved preliminarily up to this point, then yes, you have to vote yes. If you don't think that that's accurate, then you don't have to vote yes.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I just, for everyone here, I wanted them to understand that even if this city council votes to approve it, it may not have been a decision that this city council wants to make.
Well said.
Thank you.
And with that, I will entertain motion, unless there's any other items, to approve Resolution 2024-59, vacating the drainage and utility easement for Rush Creek Reserve 4th Edition.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just noting the conversation tonight. Be good to your neighbors, please. And let's clean up. I know our administration will jump on Mr. Foy's concerns and stuff, and the neighbors to the north, the neighbors to the west have legitimate, or excuse me, is that west? East, have legitimate concerns. M&I is on. Please be a good neighbor. Thank you.
Can I ask one thing?
Sure.
We've gone through this buffer zone between different zoned areas, and we've extensively went through that. I swear we've had conversations around buffer zones between developments too.
This just
Different.
predates that.
This
Yeah.
is way before that.
Yeah, okay. So like this wouldn't happen now, where somebody's development goes into somebody's backyard without a buffer of some kind?
Yeah, there'd be a
There'd
class
be
A
that
or
rear
class B.
yard,
Yeah, yeah.
so it'd be
So-
a 20 or 25 foot buffer.
We've tried to learn a little bit,
Yeah,
and
good point.
we don't want to impact people like you, but unfortunately, it wasn't something that that was addressed at the time.
Yeah, because it's important to, it's surprising to think of the timelines that some of these projects
Yeah.
go on. I mean, this was
long time ago.
5-6 years ago that it got approved, probably
Well,
5 years ago.
I voted for this, my first meeting, December of 2020. So
Okay.
it's only 4 years. Actually, not quite.
No,
So-
but this actually got approved originally like in 96 or
Yeah, and then
something.
it
Yep.
And
turned
then
into
cop-
sawgrass for
Yeah.
It was Sawgrass.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we try not to have new developments impact the neighbors as much as possible. This wouldn't happen today, but unfortunately, it happens because it was approved a long time ago.
We did have the motion in the second, so all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. On to 8B, and I'm thinking, depending on how much public comment we have, maybe we break it down into individual items for these, or we could go by show of hands. Could I see if anyone is wanting to speak on 8B?
Do you want to give the name of the project?
Oh, yes, thank you. It's the Domino's concept plan. Okay. So we'll go ahead then, and what do you guys think? Do it for I think with the other two. There's the additional how about the Oswald Farm concept plan?
2.
Okay. So, okay, if there's no one speaking on Domino's, let's go ahead and do that one first, and we'll go right into it. So 8B, is it Natalie or Kendra? Kendra.
Are we doing 8B?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I do have a couple of slides. This is a sketch plan for a Domino's Pizza drive-through at the intersection of 10 and 50. And so it's 2 existing parcels council's very familiar with. The 2 parcels total 0.52 acres. They're guided commercial and zone C1, neighborhood commercial. It is in the Southeast District, but the Southeast District has very general design guidelines outside of the town center. So there's no specific design standards that would apply from the Southeast District to this, more guidelines. And it is in the shoreland district, so there are some shoreland implications for this as well. Believe it or not, that creek is shoreland. It's a 1,280 square foot Domino's restaurant with drive-through. Restaurants are permitted use and drive-throughs are a conditional use. This is not a sit-down restaurant. There is no indoor seating. There's a pickup window for drive-through orders and a walk-up window for people who pick up their orders or for the delivery drivers. They will also go to that pickup window. The 2 lots are legal non-conforming due to size, but they would be combined and that would become a legal lot size in the C1 district. Next slide. This is the concept plan from the applicant. It's overlaid over the aerial, so it does get a little hard on the eyes, but the building is on the south side of the site. There would be a new access coming off of County Road 50 on the southwest corner of the site, and the 4 other access points on 10 and 50 would be closed. We have talked with Hennepin County about this. It's a concept plan, so we don't have a formal review from them, but generally they've been supportive of this concept. I'm sure all of you have been to one of these businesses at some point, so you know right now we park on County Road 10. This eliminates this by adding a 14-lot parking lot on the north portion of the site. So there is a bypass lane next to the drive-through. People will come through that park and walk up to the drive-through or to the walk-up order window to pick up, whether again they are a customer or a delivery driver. That also provides space for the employees. There's a small triangle of green space in the middle, and then behind the building a trash enclosure that you can see right there. Thank you, Jay. This opens up or retains the site triangle at the intersection of the 2 county roads. So they've shifted everything close to the park, but are able to, this existing building has encroached onto city parkland. This eliminates that. Those buildings, all those structures would be removed and the site cleaned up. Next slide. The applicant is here tonight, or the applicant's representative, and I don't know why that one looks gray, but these are some preliminary renderings. There's not enough information in this to really identify whether it complies or not, but it does appear generally to comply with our standards. The mix of materials, we would need to see. I think there could be work done to break up the longer elevation on the north and the south. I think that the trash enclosure really should be designed to be part of the building rather than looking like a trash enclosure addition. Next slide. Signage, on that image, I skipped over the signage, but our code is, our sign code is quite restrictive. One wall sign is permitted at the primary entrance. There really isn't a primary entrance on this site, but for example, the logo sign in the Domino's language on the east elevation could be considered the primary entrance. The logos on the north and south would not be permitted. They would need to determine what's the primary entrance, and that's where the signage could go. I would note on the imagery, there was a sign inside the window on that east elevation. That's a window sign that's permitted. If you go, yeah, right there, that would be permitted. They are not showing drive-through menu boards because, as I understand it, you're ordering on your phone. You get a notice with this concept when your pizza's ready, so there's not a drive-through window like at other fast food restaurants, so I don't believe a menu board is planned. They are allowed to, but I don't think one's planned. They're also allowed a freestanding sign. That's not shown on this concept, but they could do a 64 square foot freestanding sign in addition to the wall signage. Next slide.
Where?
Well, in the triangle, in the front yard, if you go back one, you could do it.
Okay, yep.
In the triangle right there, it's a 10-foot setback is required for monument signs, so there would be room there. Potentially, you could put it up in the green space up by the building.
Gotcha.
Or there, but
Appreciate it.
Just a quick question about that. Couldn't we give them that signage on the walls and no monument sign? Could there be a trade-off there?
they could apply for a variance,
Okay.
and that's how we would deal with that. Yep.
I
absolutely.
just see you put a monument sign in that triangle, and we've already got kind of a convoluted intersection there. I don't want any more
Yeah,
visual distractions and such. And
yeah.
If we
Just saying.
did that, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to that at all. I'd want to make sure we maybe follow up with some other businesses that have wanted a similar
Yep,
thing in the past.
I agree, yes.
The applicant's here too, and he could maybe speak to the sign plan. Again, this is a concept, but absolutely, those are things that you could request. We have a lot of variances on this
Yep.
application,
Okay.
so.
But this is, it's a site that almost
Yes.
has to require.
Absolutely. I think one of them potentially landscaping, there's no buffer yard required here because it's not adjacent to residential, but we do require 14 trees and 40 shrubs. And those shrubs would need to be adjacent to the parking areas to screen the headlights. I think the shrubbery is pretty easy to get on site. I think the trees might get a little tricky to plant.
We have a provision in code that would allow them to plant it off-site, so they
Correct.
could put it in the park adjacent to their parcel instead.
That's correct.
Would we be able to make that drainage easement better between the old locker plant and the ball field there? That's been a little off for a while, and then the loading chute that was part of the locker plant and stuff, is there an opportunity to put it along that property line? And I'm talking where'd the cursor go?
So sort of.
Further north there, that drainage
That's a-
ditch, easement, whatever we call it, is there a way that those trees and stuff could go right there?
Potentially. I just want to be careful. That's not a drainage ditch. It's a protected waterway, so it's a little bit different level. But
Okay,
yes,
whatever we
landscaping
call it is, yep,
could be part of the park's master plan.
okay,
Certainly, we could, if the applicant can't fit the trees on site,
Okay.
which seems probable. That is something that we can do. We can identify where we want to take those credits for those trees and move them to a public parcel. And conveniently, we have one right next door.
yes, we do.
So that is something we'll need to work with them on. I talked about the access. I think that's a major improvement. I think Hennepin County would concur. Next slide. So the concept does a lot of great things. It eliminates legal non-conforming lots, eliminates parking on the county road, eliminates the building setback non-conformity on the west lot line adjacent to the park, as well as along the county roads. It eliminates the building encroachment into City Park, and but variances would be required for lot width, parking setbacks on the rear setback. The code prohibits drive-throughs between the building and the street, so we'd need a variance for that. Setbacks from the county road for the building, the drive-through, and the parking, and impervious surface coverage limits for both the CI district and the shoreland district standards likely. Shoreland limits impervious surface to 25% of the lot, and they're going to be over that. So next slide. Really, this is a sketch plan, so the idea is to provide the applicant with informal comments so they can make a decision about whether or not to proceed with the project. As I said, the applicant's rep is here and could maybe answer additional questions, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to answer any myself.
Perfect. Thank you. Any questions to start us off for either Kendra or the applicant?
I have one.
Go for it.
Where would deliveries to that facility happen? Like, I don't see, like, it seems like there's traffic areas, but I don't see like supplies delivery area. Where's that?
I think Kendra was saying it, do they just go to the same window?
You mean like the pizza dough and sauce delivery
Whatever,
kind of
yeah.
stuff, not the pickup delivery
Yeah.
man?
Ingredient
person?
deliveries.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Seems like there's traffic everywhere, but not, I don't know.
So
Drones would land on the roof.
generally with restaurants, we put a condition in that deliveries be off-peak hours if there's not a
Oh, okay.
loading zone. So typically, the larger delivery truck would come at 9 a.m. or something before
Okay,
the
fair enough.
restaurant's open.
I don't have any questions other than that.
If I can say, I think it's a great use of that property. I don't know what else you could put there, but a ton of conditional uses and those kind of things. Color is you said the applicant is here?
Yes.
You come on up.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
color, does it need to be black? Is there something
What it's basically
more
just a design
earthy tone?
concept
It's a
right now.
design?
Yep, design
Cool.
concept. We're basing it off of a model that we are doing in a couple other markets across the country of this drive-through only concept. We're trying to do kind of the same look across.
Excited.
Could-
Copy paste kind of
Could
thing.
you give us any of the locations that you've done it? or is it new?
We're in the process of doing
Okay.
2 other locations, nothing completed yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're
Gotcha.
doing 2 in Wisconsin right now.
Cool.
Yeah.
So for me, a lighter, slate colored something, slate. This is black, something not gray, but
Right. And
something that fits. I love the concept, I love the thoughts. I've always concerned in previous experiences related to drive-throughs, I'd rather have drive-throughs around the parking lot, not through the parking lot. But I don't know if you've got any ability to,
This is a very
it's a very
challenging-
crazy
Yeah.
piece of property, but I just, to start mixing somebody that's hungry for pizza and somebody that's driving around to pick up their pizza, I don't want anybody ran over,
No,
but
and traffic
it's your
control-
guys' business,
Right,
so,
and traffic control is one of our key things, and,
Cool.
you know, this is, like we said, the lot is very challenging. We're trying to make it work as best as possible, because I think it's a win-win for both Domino's and the city to clean up this property.
Yeah.
And kind of going back on your comment of the deliveries, we can control our supply chain. So instead of a big 53-foot semi, we can make them deliver on a straight truck, which actually will be able to pull in this parking lot.
okay.
And they will do deliveries at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning.
I like the idea too.
Yeah. I think it'll be used
I
like.
think it's great.
You know, I have 9 kids, so I'm all about pizza.
Do any of your kids play baseball or something?
Well, I think it's a very clever use of this property. So
Yeah.
I would support this.
Yeah, I've been working on this personally for about 2 years, this whole drive-through only concept. And this is one of the first of the 3 that we're releasing. We did open a similar concept. There was an existing building in West St. Paul at the end of last year as kind of a trial run to see if this model would work, and it is being very successful over there.
Yeah, I would also be supportive of it. I think, like everyone said, it's a really tricky site, and I think you did a good job of finding something that can work there, and obviously there's some variances that I think would need to be on anything that
Oh,
comes to
yeah,
that
and
site.
we're full aware, we've met with Natalie and some of the other members over here several times, and we all knew that this would be challenging. We're gonna have a ton of variances, a ton of everything on this to see
Yep.
if we can make it work, but we're willing to work with you guys as much as humanly possible to make this work.
Our Parks guy is,
Yeah.
Just to, so that you remember, Parks and Trails looked at this little corner and we had no interest in it. It just is too small, it's just, road's too close to make it any part of a park. So this looks wonderful. Get our last little corner of the park.
There you go.
And if it's looking, we need to revisit our work on master planning to make sure that we can get the creek back in, is in there appropriately. I think it would be, use the word unique and dominoes in the same sentence is sort of an odd thing to do, but it's something that's sort of a unique look to the building.
Right.
So it looks like something that.
It's something new and interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting and sort of, a rural dominoes.
Yes, there
Something
you go.
Well,
that fits the neighborhood.
For sure. And I think it's kind of interesting use next to the park too, in that I could see kids are having birthdays at the park,
Yep.
be an easy delivery right
And
there, or
I
pickup.
kind of briefly read through the minutes and stuff. We do have plans, and it wasn't on the site plan or the concept plan. We do have plans to tie in our property up to 10 with a sidewalk. If it's on our property, or if we get permission to put it right on the property line on the park side there, for anticipation that there will be a public sidewalk coming down 10 to tie into the ball fields.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Jeremy?
I know we've talked about the idea of concessions at the park at some point. I'm wondering if there's going to be a restaurant right around the corner from the ball fields, does that mean we should discuss that more seriously as part of the park master plan in the near future, whether we want to have a facility as part of that to create that option?
So, council member, as someone who has run lots of concessions in my previous life, having a Domino's there to do it, so we migrated in my last job in Shakopee, and they're just finishing this up, in which we intentionally approached this strategy, but the city built the building. This is way better.
So, and I can make an additional note on there, as we can provide product to you guys at a cheaper price for, we do concessions across the country all day long. We do stuff for school districts, school lunches and stuff like that, so we do have set rates, so it's a win-win situation.
Did I mention I have 9 kids?
Do they all go to Corcoran school district?
Yeah.
They can get pizza. Just get us in touch with the lunch ladies at the school, and we'll work something out.
So some of the solutions that have worked really well is when we have a partner like this that's willing to partner with the city, is as we try to create spaces for birthday parties and family reunions and team meetings, we can potentially get a rate that when they book the room, they can get their pizza and drinks from there, which makes it really convenient for our users. It helps promote a local business, and just local, in terms of space-wise, it's really convenient to provide that kind of service.
quick question, we could start, and I'm sure you probably did this already, a certified vendor for the parks and those kind of things, and D is kind of pretty close to the beginning of the alphabet, so it'd be kind of cool to make this all work out.
Yeah, we do have a similar setup with the U of M in Minneapolis.
Do you know where that is, John?
Campus where
What?
any
U of M.
concessions for any sporting event we're at.
Cool. Yeah, I think there's, I'm sure, plenty of work on the details to be done in the future, but I think there's
Are they both
unanimous
smiling?
support.
Kendra's not smiling, Natalie is.
I'm just
That's just
smiling.
my face.
Yes, I'm just smiling.
I
It would really be cool if we could make this work.
So
That's my input.
I'll weave some caution into it. I love the idea. I showed it to my wife and I said, looks like we might be eating Domino's more than we do right now, just for the sporting business, local business factor. But devil's always in the details. I hate, right? I don't like the word hate, but I don't like it if we just blanket approve. Like I think you get the idea that we like the concept, but and we've had people run with that and use it against us. The devil's in the details, right? So this isn't, whatever we say today isn't binding or anything like that.
No, this is, hey,
Yeah.
we're all on board to
Yeah,
try to make this
yeah.
work, and it's us as, you know, the owners to work with the city.
Perfect, yeah.
To make this as what you guys want. I mean, obviously, if you want a different material on the building for the part of the city it's in, we're willing to work with you on stuff like that, you know, or moving trees. I like the feedback on the signage. You know, if the signage code says that we can't have one on north or south, but I do like the idea, okay, we're not gonna have them, you know, go down the road, I'm not saying it's a done deal, but trading off a monument sign for signage on the building would be a good way of doing this, because I think we can all agree that this intersection sooner or later is going to have a roundabout in it, and I was trying to put a
County
monument
ever-
sign up there. What's that?
If
County
the
don't
county
want
ever
no
comes
part
to
of
the
it.
table,
gosh.
yeah.
We've talked about it.
Yeah, but putting a monument sign out there, you know, if that is a plan down there, down the road, that is gonna probably disrupt and all that other stuff, so we might as well just not even plan on putting one out there and get all of our signage on the building, that way it's planned for the future.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Tom Corinne raised her hand.
Oh, yeah.
Planning.
Sorry, man.
No, go
He
ahead.
actually just addressed it, because that was my concern is talking about the future buildup of traffic. When the industrial park has an access off of 55, and now suddenly we have more traffic, we know there needs to be a traffic improvement. And so you already mentioned that you knew that that was also coming down the road, and so building that into the concept plan, it's just something I wanted to mention, so.
And Mayor and Council, if I could say, just the collaboration that has occurred before this meeting has happened. We've had many, many conversations, and their flexibility dealing with the realities of this very complex piece of property in order to be solution-oriented is pretty remarkable. I mean, they had multiple entrances at one point, and the county provided feedback to one. Some folks would walk away from that, and I just wanted to say thank you for your dedication to be solution-oriented in order to try and make something could be really good for the community happen. Because the variants that have happened in the last 4 months to try and figure out how to make it work, thank you for being solution-oriented. And I also, you know, to the council's remarks, recognize that there's still going to be more push and pull, and your commitment to it, finding a way to make it work. Thank you.
Yeah.
Very
Like I
much
said, I think this is
appreciated.
a win-win for both parties here.
I just want to pile on to Dean's comment. I'd prefer to see a different color material. It's a little stark for that area. I support the concept. I think the flow can work. I'll be really excited to get delivery pizza at my house at some point. It's not currently an option.
Well, if
But-
you're within 9 minutes of this property.
Oh, yeah.
I will be.
Yeah, I've got a 4.5-month-old son, so as soon as he's on solids.
We gotta be careful about making all the decisions about us in our homes.
Remember, this is public record.
Yeah.
Excited for
else?
the concept, very excited.
Any other questions?
Now Kendra's smiling, so good.
You gotta have my touch to make Kendra smile.
I think we're good. Perfect,
guys
thank
for your
you.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, on to item 8C, which is the Oswald Farms concept sketch plan review. And if, Ken?
You want me to go before the comments?
Yeah, let's do that, and then we'll do comments.
Okay. This is at the corner of 116 and 30. It is a 77 roughly acre site today that is currently farmed. It is guided business park and zoned business park. It's the only land in the city that is guided and zoned for business park. It is in the Northeast District, so it's subject to the Northeast District guidelines. Slide. This concept plan shows development on the the western 2/3 of the property, with the eastern third remaining undeveloped, with the existing farm remaining. On the screen, it's a little hard to see, but there's a blue pond on the east side of the development. There's a new north-south public street that will connect County Road 30 to Bellwether. There's a street that'll be stubbed with Bellwether 10th that will connect through there, as has been planned. There was a public street in the Northeast District guidelines that was planned from 116 that would wind through this site and ultimately out to 101 in a roundabout way. The applicant is proposing that that be a private drive north of the buildings, between the buildings and the pond, until it reaches the new north-south public street, and then it would become a public street moving to the east. The concept has four buildings that total 592,000 square feet. The applicant has shown a large pond and a couple of public plazas on the north side to screen and buffer from the adjacent residential. This concept plan showed the landscaping that's required for the buffering only. I'll talk a little bit more about that on another slide. So this is not all of the landscaping that would be required should this development proceed, but a concept that shows how they would try to buffer those homes. The buildings are over 300 feet from that north property line, to give you a sense of scale. You can see the underpass on 116 that was discussed as part of the HOPE project. That's a Three Rivers trail, and so that layout is the current Three Rivers design. So there's an underpass that kind of swings wide and is proposed on the north property line. We've had several meetings with Three Rivers to talk about this trail, both on the Hope site and on this site. This is consistent with their plans. It's a 20-foot, what they asked for is a 20-foot trail easement for a 10-foot wide trail. Next slide, Jay. I feel like one of the really important things to be aware of is this is a business park. This is not an industrial district, and I've talked a lot with the applicant.
Can I ask you to define business park versus industrial?
Right, so the business park, the intent is to provide offices, low-impact manufacturing and assembly products that have no exterior noise, glare, or fumes, and are intended to be things that are more compatible with residential and business uses. And so, as an example, laboratories, research facilities, offices, warehousing, and indoor storage are permitted, but things like warehouse distribution and storage as a principal use are not permitted. Now, that may be going away anyway, but not permitted as a principal use. So the applicant's narrative indicates that they understand that. What the long and short of it is, in my mind, is we don't allow distribution centers. And so distribution centers are heavy truck traffic, large volumes, very frequent, as opposed to a warehousing or a showroom facility that certainly still has loading docks, still has trucks, but they're fewer in number. We don't have a number. I think it's sort of, as the Supreme Court says, we know it when we see it. So it's going to be really important if this moves forward to work with the applicants to really narrow that up and make sure that what we get for users is consistent with that vision for the intent from the code of the business park campus. Next slide. This is just, again, a little closer view. Again, the landscaping here is intended to meet the buffering requirements, not the landscape requirements. But this close-up shows the two public plazas that are on each end of that northern pond, and intended, I believe, to sort of provide some connection to the public trail. This is a concept, we don't know anything about what those are. But generally, public plazas, as required by the Northeast District, have some improvements in there. They serve as a public amenity. Certainly, they'll serve the employees in these buildings, but it is intended to be open to the public. So in terms of where they're located, they're well located, but certainly lots of work to be done to determine what they are. Conceptually, I mean, they're showing 2 stormwater ponds. We don't know at this stage if that's adequate or not, but they're well located again to provide some buffering. The buildings meet the setback requirements. They are asking for the flexibility from the county roads in terms of parking setback, and that flexibility is allowed by right, subject to additional landscaping. There are no, again, it's concepts, so sometimes I hesitate to talk about the details, but there's a lot more landscaping that needs to happen. We need to have landscape islands, per the Northeast District, for example. That'll add a lot more green space onto this site. If you go to the next slide, Jay. They will be subdividing the property. I'm not sure yet how, but they will be subdividing it. That new public street will be platted. Likely, each building will be a separate lot, and therefore likely a variance will be required for a 0 setback for internal lot lines, unless we change the code. We talked about that with Hope. We've talked about that with a couple of other projects. Architecture, again, we're a long way out with that. They did provide some conceptual renderings as well as some images from other projects they've done. In this case, the architecture, they need to comply with the standards in section 1060 that everyone needs to comply with, as well as the Northeast District standards, which are a higher threshold for architectural design. The loading areas, the way the buildings are oriented, the loading areas face each other, but will be visible from County Road 30 and potentially could be visible from the residence to the north. So to address that, they've provided wing walls. You saw those with the Corcoran Farms Business Park. Wing walls as well as landscaping to provide that screening. Again, we don't have a rendering with sightlines yet, but those are very standard and effective tools to provide screening. Next slide. This is a rendering of the building, and again, it's exactly that, just a rendering to give some idea. I certainly don't believe they're proposing the tan and green at this stage, but the intent of this is to show how they would add windows and colors and articulation to break up the mass of a long building. Lots more details are required if this proceeds, but just conceptually they're thinking about how to address that issue. Next slide. Parking as shown generally appears to be adequate. It really depends, again, as we said, the devil's in the details, who the users are. We'll need a lot more landscape islands, which will eliminate a number of parking stalls. We'll need to continue to evaluate that. The Northeast District does require bike racks, so we'll be looking for that, as well as some additional buffering between the parking and the sidewalks. Sidewalks in this project are going to be important. We're going to have a really nice regional trail here, and we'll want these employees to be able to access that, so we'll be looking for that. Again, we've talked about landscaping, and it will look very different, and I think that will be a challenge for them. This is a lot of building and a lot of pavement, and our landscape ordinance is very significant. Again, I think that's evidenced by the only thing on the plan is the buffering. They haven't even done the standard landscaping yet, so it's going to be a challenge. And they haven't specifically at this stage asked for flexibility, but that might be something that could be part of a future ask. Next slide. We talked about street access. Certainly this is consistent with the Northeast District Plan. It's consistent with what the Bellwether connection was anticipated for, but a feasibility study would need to be conducted as part of an environmental assessment worksheet. We do infrastructure feasibility studies with all projects. We're going to talk in a minute about the EAW, but we would definitely be looking at traffic impacts as part of that.
Mr. Mayor, Kendra, could you talk the third bullet point down one more time on the map? You said that that north road would be private to 116 and then it would be public
Yeah, so the east-west road that's north of the buildings, if you go down, that's the
No,
trail.
that's the trail.
That's the trail.
Don't
If you
put
go
the,
down-
don't
right
put the
there.
road up there.
That's a
Okay.
I don't know, just comment.
I just,
It's a road.
when it was, when you were talking this, somebody had to point her up on the trail. So that road going east-west is private, and then it dumps out on the 116.
Yeah, so it goes south on the west side of that westernmost
Yep.
building and then goes out to 116 there. Again, the county has to approve this, but that's
Yep.
planned on our Northeast District study. So that would come through and then it would be a private access that would wrap around the buildings. And then that, where the pointer is a
Okay.
north-south public street.
I had it in my head that you were talking another access in Oswell Farms, and I didn't think.
Well, I
okay.
am, so let me continue then.
Uh-oh.
So on the
Okay.
north side,
Not
where
uh-oh, okay.
the private road is, south of the green circle, right there, is not shown on here, but that road would extend in the future, when that eastern third of the property develops, that road would extend to the east as a public street.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking west. So, nope, I'm caught up now. You can go back to this
So-
slide.
So the western half of that would just be a access to the parking lots, right? That's not a street, it's just to the east is a street.
Correct.
Got it.
Thank you.
Park dedication for this would be 4% of the net land area or the cash equivalent. The Diamond Lake Regional Trail will extend through the site. When Hope came in, we spent a lot of time talking with Three Rivers. When we knew this was coming in, we've met with them. Generally, they're comfortable with this alignment, but we'll continue to work with them on the alignment of the trail through the site. Next slide. So in addition, there's a number of resiliency standards in the Northeast District that would need to get incorporated, a lot of details in the Northeast District that we're just not at that level yet. The scale of this project requires an EAW. You've done a few of those lately, but for the public, industrial properties like that exceed 300,000 square feet trigger an EAW, an environmental assessment worksheet. That's a tool to identify the potential for significant environmental impacts and identify mitigation strategies. As part of our report, we do an infrastructure feasibility analysis. That includes looking at sewer, water, storm, traffic, all those kinds of infrastructure components, as well as things like air quality, water quality, and environmental animal impacts and plant impacts. That needs to happen before any other development can proceed. So the next step, if the council supports the concept, the applicant's next step would be to ask the city to prepare a scope of work for an EAW. That process would proceed, and then they could apply for a preliminary plat, site plan, and variances. They are not proposing a PUD, they're proposing to come in under standard zoning. So then the third and final step would be a final plat and development contract. At this point, I'm not certain if it's a phased development or if it's a single development. That's a detail that I think still needs to get worked out, but the applicant is here today and may have more info on that. And so again, sketch plan, it's advisory only, but again, the more detailed feedback for the applicant, the better for them to make decisions about how to proceed.
Perfect. Any off-the-bat questions from council? Otherwise, I think we'll do the public comment and then have discussion.
I like that.
Sounds good. Jay, do you have the cards? 2. Jason?
Do you want the applicant to say a few words first before you might answer some questions?
If you'd like to first? Sure. Sorry. Let's do that then.
Thanks, Jason.
Wasn't me this time.
Thank you, and thank you for the clarification earlier with the road and the sidewalk thing. I heard some scares in the back, and I'm glad that we clarified some of that. So, my name is Connor McCarthy. I am here as developer and representative of United Properties, the developer of the project. And first, thanks for hearing me, and a big thank you to Natalie, Kendra, and Jay for helping me through this process over the last several months. This concept plan is a result of many, many discussions, and the feedback has helped create a much more thoughtful design, along with county feedback, Three Rivers, and many others. So I think Kendra did a great job explaining the project and the staff report as such. I really just want to say, express excitement for the project and recognize that there's a lot more to be done. Additional studies, the EAW, feedback from neighbors, and you all. So in summary, 590-ish thousand square feet of business park space on about 48 acres of the 77-acre Oswald Farm. 4 buildings that would be phased in construction. So it would most likely be 1 or 2 buildings a year at most. It could be 3 to 4 years of construction. I also want to share that at this point we don't have a user identified for the buildings, but United Properties specializes. We're headquartered here in the Twin Cities, and we've done about 20 of these similar types of projects throughout the metro area. And these projects really do lease and sell oftentimes to users that have a variety of office, production, light assembly, and warehousing space, which understanding a lot of work is to be done, but that would hopefully comply with the current zoning of business park and differentiate from industrial. If we could maybe put the plan back on the screen. Thank you. So the plan's evolved a lot over time. You might have seen a previous iteration. It was on the agenda a few months ago and was pulled, and we made changes to it. The buildings are much smaller than once previously shown. We've eliminated trailer parking, which lends itself much more to a distribution type use, so we've reworked a lot of this. We've incorporated the Three Rivers Trail, which I do want to talk about maybe at the end here, and then incorporating the screening wing walls and blocking kind of the utility side of these buildings from public view has been something we've heard loud and clear. And so really I am here because I really want to answer questions. I want to be a friend of the community, proceed with a sound development process. You know, in addition to the jobs and tax base, I think it's important to work with the neighbors, and that's been ongoing. Effort is still continuing, and some of them will likely speak tonight. And I'll let them share their thoughts, but I did promise to them that I would bring up the Three Rivers Park Trail, which was something that we discussed pretty heavily at a meeting a couple weeks ago. But the location of the trail shown on the plan here is really derived from the guidance of Three Rivers at this point. The neighbors in Hunter's Ridge up here are concerned with the location of that at the property line, and so I've kind of put on myself to raise this concern. We do have an alternate plan that we can share. Maybe I don't have it with me, but sometime with you all. But essentially shifting this trail south of the stormwater management area is a concept that we've drawn out just as a way to, I guess, provide some relief to the neighbors on the north. And so there's obviously tons of work to be done. This is a concept plan, but it was something we heard loud and clear in the first several meetings we had and wanted to raise that. So all in all, we're excited, look forward to the feedback and working with you, and kind of here to answer questions. Thanks.
Great. Thank you. Any questions that come up immediately, or do you want to? Then we'll go to comments, and then maybe if we have questions that play after, we'll let you know. So Jason, for real this time.
All right. You can leave that up, that'd be great.
Good evening. Jason Bartles, 19795 Hunter's Ridge. So right here, Hunter's Ridge is the road, the street that runs up here. So these are the properties that are directly north of the development. Mayor and council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight. I represent the neighbors occupying the residential properties along Hunter's Ridge, directly to the north of this site. The major takeaway I'd like to convey here tonight is thank you. Thank you that there's a big industrial development going in our backyard? No. But thank you for allowing us to have some input into the project. After an initial review with city officials, Connor from United Properties reached out directly to me to introduce himself and offered to meet with the residents of Hunter's Ridge to review the project, listen to our concerns, provide some feedback, and help minimize the impact to our residential properties. Very impressive. I mean,
we've been talking about this since he came out. And, you know, he made a special trip to come on site to see us. He listened to us. He incorporated our concerns and ideas into the revised plan. We shared concerns about a development. Obviously, we're concerned about building size, lighting, hours of operation, traffic, all kind of the standard stuff. You know, we also reviewed bigger concerns about drainage, privacy, and the park and bike trail. Connor's revised concept plan, he doesn't have it here, but what he said is exactly right. The updated plan that he shared with us, the neighbors, show a lot more landscaping, and I understand it's very, very preliminary, but the more landscaping the better, because that gives us more privacy. The proposed bike trail, right now got moved down here between the pond and the buildings, away from our property line. This presents a better functional design all around, as it allows trail users to more directly access the two public plaza spaces, and also moves that trail away from the property owner's property line, while still maintaining the connection between Bellwether and the Hope Church project. We obviously support the plan for a fence that's also been added. This plan doesn't show it, but there's also a fence that's right between the pond and our properties, which is great. As you're well aware, a great deal of development has been occurring around our neighborhood. You know, poor Hunter's Ridge. It's not the first time I've addressed this council. We've addressed the opportunity. We appreciate the opportunity to make this project as minimally intrusive to the longtime corporate residents the longtime Corcoran residents as possible. We encourage council to support the revised plan. Connor doesn't have it, but he can get it to you, of course, as presented by United Properties. So, again, are we excited about having this in the backyard? No, but certainly appreciate Connor and United Properties working with us, respecting our opinion, asking for feedback, and incorporating that feedback into the revised plan. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
You're getting good at that.
Good job.
I'm trying. Trying to get frequent flyer miles or something. There isn't a whole lot else, then I suppose you could develop this or something. I don't know. I'll come back, you know.
It's not the last we're gonna see of you.
Not because, yeah.
And next one we have is Josh.
Not the last time.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Josh McKinney with Measure Group. Tonight I'm actually representing the Hope Community Church Development and Brian Lothar, who couldn't be here tonight. So I'd actually like to echo what Mr. Bartles had said. Connor and United Properties, basically from the beginning, has engaged us in our development to really kind of figure out a way where our developments could coexist and potentially complement one another. And so I want to just say kudos to him for that approach, because I think it's something that, if I'm a member of the city council, I'd like to hear that, private entities are doing that before they get in front of you. Our position is, this development is, as proposed, seems to meet the comprehensive plan and what Kendra had mentioned tonight, following the rules in terms of the usage and whatnot, would seem to kind of fit the bill of what the previous council had intended when they re-guided this parcel. And I would just say, we look forward to kind of working with UP in the future, from an architectural standpoint, to see what we can do to really have this project complement the buildings that are proposed on the west side of 116, which, if you recall, are two-story medical office buildings. So from an architectural standpoint, even not necessarily materials, but things like windows and things really kind of to address that corner at 30 and 116. And I echoed it when I presented for the Hope project, but or I had said it during that point in time, but I would echo it that something that's important here, and something that this council and the planning commission should be proud of, is that the Northeast area standards are going to make this a really high quality development, something that you should be proud of. And I think if you go drive some of the other projects that Connor and his team have shown us, it's something that when it looks on screen it looks scary, but it's not when you're in person. It does feel more like a corporate environment. And so with that, I would just voice our support for the project and look forward to working with Connor and his team.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Did anyone else want to speak on this item? No? Okay. can go to council discussion. Does anyone want to start us off? Let's go Mark and then Dave.
The new guy. Kendra, I just want to thank you for the report. I think it was well-written and concise. I have a question for either you or Connor. Do you have a rough estimate of what the ratio is office space to warehouse?
I do not. I think that's something to work through. Connor might have some sense of what they have done.
So obviously I mentioned we don't have a user identified for these buildings, but I can share that maybe broadly speaking, case studies of buildings we've developed, it's typically ranged from maybe 5 to 15% of the space is office, true office space, and then 10, 15, 20, 25% is some sort of assembly or production space, and then the remainder would be the back-end warehouse space for these.
Okay, thank you. My reason for asking is that I read the narrative that you provided, and it references, and I'll quote, production, lab, R&D, warehousing, and distribution. And then I looked at the photographs of the proposed buildings, and it looks like it's heavily designed to service distribution. Semis are shown in those concept photos, and the entire interior between buildings appears primarily geared for shipping and receiving. As the staff report highlights, warehousing and distribution is not permitted in the business park district, but it is in light industrial. So I want to know what the principal purpose is here. Is it warehousing / distribution, or is it office space?
Well, I think the devil's in the details, and I think that the assembly...
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, the assembly and the production and the R&D and the lab component of this is an area where I think fosters a good discussion, which is that, is it 100% office space? No. We can't develop that in today's day and age with the state of the office market, but it is more to do with the fact that a product, for example, maybe a widget may be produced within the building. There will be office employees in the building. There'll be a warehouse that stores the widget that's assembled or produced within the building, and then it will be distributed out of the building because that's how a warehouse functions. But distribution as the primary use is something that we have a lot of work to do on with Kendra as far as setting the rule book for the development. But the intention is not to have an Amazon distribution facility in this business park. It is more, and I have case studies that I can share afterwards, but I would just say that it's the blend of office, production, assembly, and warehouse space all together that make this different than light industrial. And what I'd also share is that I'm aware of a light industrial project being proposed to the north of this site, northeast of this site, near the Brockton interchange in Corcoran. And there are a few key differences about that site plan and how those projects are designed that I think speak to the differences. And trailer parking is one of those differences. This site plan does not have dedicated stalls to park trailers, which is a key component to limit distribution type users in these buildings. Another...
Wait, it kind of does though, doesn't it? What are those big long ones in between the buildings?
Between the buildings, that's intended to show just the loading areas of where the docks would be placed in the buildings, but I don't have, there's none on here, so I can't show it, but oftentimes...
Can't trailers go there?
Oftentimes when a development has trailer parking, these buildings will be 100 feet apart from each other, and there'll be trailer stalls in between, almost like you'd see regular parking stalls.
Not attached to the building.
Respectfully, I want to cut you off because my time is limited here. So I think that the staff report raises a good point, and that is if these buildings are configured for a principal use that is not permitted in the business park district, potential tenants of yours may use it in ways not permitted in the district. You know, what's the saying? give an inch, take a mile. The second thing is that I didn't have to read more than the first page of the staff report to find out that the property where this complex is proposed to be built is surrounded by residential neighborhoods. The Business Park District Code provides that, quote, uses allowed in this district are limited to those that are compatible with lower intensity residential and business usage, and which have limited amounts of outside storage, and end quote. I don't think that you need to be an expert land planner to recognize that this development is out of place here. And in support of this, I see that this is literally the only parcel of land that is guided business park. Some would call that spot zoning. I recognize that this application is not one to rezone the property, but I look at the map and it is literally surrounded by clusters of other zones. I know the property must have been zoned a while back, but I think that this is really important to consider, especially in light of whether the uses here are more intense, like distribution, than what's envisioned in the business park district. Third, as to the variance requests related to the setback between the lots, I do not see anywhere in the application or the staff report any analysis of the variance standard. I do not know what would make this parcel unique for granting a variance. I don't see a canyon, I don't see a river, I don't see anything that would make me think that a variance is appropriate in this case. So informally, I think that this analysis should be beefed up. And related to this, I see that the business park district has a maximum impervious surface coverage of 70%. Now, based on the drawings, the roofs of the buildings and the concrete for the parking lots seem to fall just under 70%, just using my eyes. But that is only because of the eastern part of the property that is reserved for future development. I'd estimate that the part of the property that are being or that is being developed far exceeds 70% maximum. I would like to have the figures for the impervious surface area for both the area of being developed and for the total property, including the undeveloped eastern portion. So, thank you.
Just real quick though, Mark, this is concept. This is just a sketch plan, something drawn, and it sounds like
well, if it
Connor,
was an app, you know where I'm going.
let me finish, please. He's open to. He wants to come. The conversation was he'd come with current ordinances and those kind of things with limited asks. So it's a sketch plan. So.
Did you have other comments?
I'm huge on the trail. I would rather see the wetland up against that property. The talk of a fence, I was with you and the mayor and Jay when we were talking initially and stuff. A fence on that property wasn't talked about and stuff, but I'd love to see the wetland pushed up. If it's one of those things, I would rather not see that trail up tight to that private road. I'd rather see it between the water and the shrubbery, if that makes sense. I know you might have a rendering and such, but just something
For safety.
Yep, the fence, I didn't realize there'd be like a fence there. I'm guessing a 4 to 6 foot fence on that property line to the north and stuff. It just, that neighborhood already has a pretty nice backyard and such, and I don't want to intrude on that with a bike trail right up next to it, even if there's a fence there. So I'd like to see a nice trail, but between, that'd be a pretty neat bike ride or a walk along the one side heavily landscaped and the other side water. So be pretty cool.
I had an analogous thought. this maybe is a good time for that.
You done?
I am.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I'm also big on the trail. I think that's a big amenity for the Hope parcel, where we'll have 650 or so units. A lot of folks will want to take advantage of that. I want to make sure that's a high-quality experience. I'm fine if it's on the north side or the south side, as long as it's a naturalized corridor. And I think there could be a good opportunity with that stormwater management area if that can be seeded and planted in a way where it makes it look more like a wetland and less like this isolated puddle of water. There could be a really good amenity value to that. I have a question about the logistics of running a trail between the buildings and the stormwater. And if that would create any issues with water flow or just the land ownership, if that's going to be owned by the park district, can you have that dividing this project's stormwater from the area that needs the stormwater? I'm open to it, but I'm just curious if that would cause any.
I think any change is gonna have to be talked with Three Rivers about.
Yeah, typically it's an easement though, so it doesn't create any legal issue, but it is certainly something we'll have to talk with Three Rivers about and how to address it in a way that, on the north side it's separated and it feels more recreational. I think there will be challenges moving it south, but they can be dealt with. That's not a real pond. I mean, that's a drawing of a pond to get to the point. So I think there's some room that you could still wiggle a trail and provide some interest, as you say, even if it's on the south side.
Yeah, okay. Given the buildup around the existing neighbors, I think it would be great if, as part of your first phase, whatever building that is, plant that full buffer on that north side so they get the most time to grow before you start to build up more of the structure in the area. I'm also interested in what's going to happen on the eastern side. And maybe it's too early to speak to that, but would you anticipate that developing in a similar fashion to what you have on the western side?
We've studied this site, the western side, more because we believe that's what the market would accept at this point. But I think that, yes, this, as we discussed the road extending along here, you may envision how it could develop in a similar nature.
Very good, thank you.
Can I go?
Yeah.
So, I give you an A+ for reaching out. You reached out to me, right? We had a conversation. And I'll kind of tell you what I already told you on the phone, but I don't like this project, and I don't think it belongs here. America doesn't have heavy industry anymore, so even the heaviest industries in America aren't like places where you drive by and there's just black smoke belching out of smokestacks and that kind of stuff. To me, if you look at the pictures, like this is heavy industry in America today. And so I feel your pain about maybe office isn't in demand right now. So I would think that if that's the case, either this sits undeveloped or we downscale the ideas on what do we do with this property. I don't think we want to make it heavy industry. This is heavy industry, and this is where I've been before on these giant, I mean, if 50% of it is warehousing, it's a warehouse. If you got semi trucks, how many stalls are those? On each side, you got 4 rows of like, I don't know, 50 stalls. So there's, and if you drive by a manufacturing plant, you'll see trailers just parked there. It's not movement in and out. So like semi-trailers are going to be parked there all the time. A lot of these places are on the side of 610 in Brooklyn Park, which is perfect for these things because it's on a state highway. This is on County Road 30 between neighborhoods. So I think it's helpful to get feedback that's honest rather than spin your wheels, but I'm only one vote. When I think of what should be here, it's like medical buildings or offices. And I think that's the definition of the zoning, rather than 50% warehouses and semi-trucks and manufacturing facilities, that kind of stuff. To me, this is industrial. It doesn't belong here. And I think if I was to lay odds, I would bet there's going to be a trail through this location in 100% of anything that comes through here. We're not going to, this council, no council is going to allow that trail to just end on the east side of 116. So I don't think you need to worry about whether there's going to be a trail through this property ever. And this trail that, you know, the first thing you see this giant building, you take a left and go on a straight. I don't know how the ponds are going to be, but we'll have a water tower to the west of this road that shows a silo, a house, and like
Rolling hills.
Cattails.
Cattails,
Then you look at this side and you see a silo with those three things, and you look at this side and you see these 4 heavy industrial buildings, and I just don't think it belongs. I think this is misplaced. Even though you're a nice guy, it's hard to it's hard to say that, and you're not the developer. But I will fight against this. I don't like it.
I think the challenge with that is, and I disagree with the way the zoning map was set up in the last comp plan too, but it is zoned business park.
But
and
this
that's
isn't
where
a
I
business
struggle.
park. It's industrial.
Oh, we could have that discussion.
We could, for sure, yeah.
I think to me, the big issue is gonna come down to what the users are, is how that gets determined. I would be concerned about type of users that would lend itself more to more of an industrial type park. That business park would be my big concern, because I think it kind of toes that gray area in our comp plan and code, for better or for worse, kind of like you were saying, you know.
I would want to avoid becoming Rogers South.
Yeah.
And how this develops.
Here you go. So yeah, I think that would be a big issue for me. In terms of the trail, I'd be open to the relocation discussion. I think that would have to be worked out a lot with staff and with Three Rivers. But if it's doable, I don't have an objection to it. And yeah, I think my preference would be to maybe see some smaller buildings, and something else kind of mixed in, like that you were discussing, those type of scale buildings, medical or more office. I know that's difficult with the market to entirely office. Maybe seeing something that would be my preference, but depending on the users, potentially this could work, I think. So it's kind of right on the line, I think. So.
Except that warehousing and distribution is not permitted in the business park zone.
Warehousing.
Just to clarify, as a principal use, it's not, but those are just a distinction. They are permitted, it just has to be accessory to another principal use like like assembly or manufacturing. So, so we could see some of that, but it's not allowed as a principal use.
Right.
The Amazon distribution center, as the example you used, would not be permitted, but I don't have a good example.
So like the companies that I've worked for have been that kind of company, where you would have, you know, a dozen vendors who might make a delivery in a day, bringing in components. You've got employees coming, they work maybe 2 shifts, hundreds of cars for the employees. Product gets assembled, boxed, kitted up, and then UPS comes at 4 p.m. with 2 brown vans and takes everything out. I'm guessing that's what we intended for a business park, so it's still regular industrial kinds of vehicles coming, but it's not necessarily a steady stream and a huge volume. Now when you stack a dozen of them in a building, the net impact is still significant. It's not like it's only office, but it also isn't like you've got 500 independent couriers showing up at random intervals and that sort of thing that you would get in a larger distribution-only scenario.
To kind of agree to smaller buildings, those kind of things, I think that was my original thought on there. This would be the extreme, and it'd be neat to see it come back with something that is a little different. Probably don't want to come back with the buildings aligned with 68 semi-parking stalls in the backside of each building. Something that's a little bit more realistic. Couple dozen dock ramps, those kind of things. Again, very conceptual plan and such, and I think Kendra's got a good definition of distribution is distribution like the Amazons, those kind of things are not acceptable, but us pick up of UPS, those kind of things of assembled product to ship, that's a different thing. That's what I'm used to too. The medical device manufacturing, the manufacturing that I'm in now, whole bunch of stuff going on. You still need a warehouse to store all of the subcomponents and those kind of things, so.
I would challenge you to look at the Brooklyn, the Amazon distribution center, at the percentage of car versus semi-truck parking spots, because I'm looking at it right now. I would challenge you to see if it's that much different than this.
No, I don't want to challenge, I'm just saying.
But everyone keeps saying they don't want that, but the
his-
percentage of cars to trucks ratio and the number of parking spots is like the same as an Amazon distribution center.
I'm understanding that, but I don't think the intent was each and every one of those are a loading dock. Is that correct?
No, I think each of these buildings would have somewhere between 12 and 18 loading docks on them.
So the lines and stuff that are there are just there. It's not going to be 68 loading docks on the backside of these buildings.
Well, why did they draw it that way?
Ask him. It's a concept, for God's sakes. Come on, guys. It's
Well,
like
if you're
we're
trying to make the
approving
argument it's not a warehouse,
just
and you come in
saying.
here with a warehouse
You
plan.
guys aren't listening. A warehouse is,
I'm observing.
again, a supply of parts to go to the manufacturing in the building. You've got a group of people in offices. Come on, John.
You know, my takeaway, I understand.
And they're tall.
I understand where
Side.
you're coming from, and I
How tall
think
are
that
they?
it means that we have some work to do. I can share that I've worked in other communities on this, on projects like this in Egan, in Beaver Grove Heights, and there are ways to write the rule book that I think satisfies the end goal here, which is to limit that amount of traffic and distribution. And so my hope is that, you know, after this meeting, I can spend some time with staff and come up with something that maybe you can give me feedback on. But I understand where you're coming from. I get we've got some work to do.
So is what you're saying, there would be like a lease covenant for the tenants that would provide control around what kind of traffic volume they could generate and that
Yeah, I
sort of
think,
thing?
so the EAW study, that would be the next step of this process, would be more of a traffic thing. But to your specific point, I want to answer directly is, we've talked with other communities about limiting the number of dock doors on a building. We've limited amount of space that can be used purely as warehousing. There's things like that that we've agreed to in the past, and I'm open to those conversations and sensitizing some of those and talking about them. So personally, I read the business park table of permitted uses to be fairly flexible. And I think that to get you guys the product and for us to be able to build the product that you want to see on the site will require a collaboration, because I think that there is a disconnect right now in the city code in this particular zoning district. And you know, I'm local, United Properties is headquartered here, we want to do the right thing. So I'm not going to come in here and just build something that everybody dislikes. To correct, I don't remember who said it, but I am the developer on the project, so if there are changes, like, that'd be me. And so I'll be here all along the way.
And I think it'll be, you know, and I also think, kind of on the point of how it looks with all the dock doors, or all the stalls shown, it'll be a very different looking
It'll be different.
building when you see the actual architecture, and the landscaping is gonna be a significant feat to add into there.
Well, I'm one vote, so it should be
Yeah.
a lot different than what we see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another factor we might want to raise is when we reviewed Corcoran Farms, one of the things we talked through was adding some public art element to it to sort of reemphasize the farm tie-in. And you will have a good frontage on 30. We talked about the graphic on the water tower. I'm wondering if there might be an opportunity there to mitigate some of the industrial look, depending on how you want to design that.
We'll certainly discuss. Corinne, did you have?
I just wanted to, and I have appreciated all the comments. The one thing that hasn't been touched on is just the visual appearance of the building in and of itself. And it really does, the renderings tend toward or lean toward that industrial type of building right now. When I envision more of an office building, there's more windows, there's a breakup. If it's the same elevation all across, there's a change in the roof line that just brings added interest. And so I know that this is just a concept, but as you move forward, I think looking at adding visual interest to the roof line, adding more windows, warehouse, that's challenging, but certainly maximizing them where your office space is will give it a greater appearance of business park and less industrial. And that also can be accomplished by breaking up the size of those individual buildings too. Maybe, anyway, just a thought, but no one had talked about the sort of visual appearance, so I just wanted to
Appreciate it.
make sure.
Thanks, Brent. I second that.
Appreciate it. Yeah, well said. And then the only other remaining item, I think, is for, I don't know if you've reached out to the Bellwether residents, just, okay, perfect. I just wanted to, it was my fault that it was a little bit late. I had to get the list of names.
I told everybody I blamed you.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so yeah, just wanted to make sure that was out there, so perfect. Did you have any other questions of us?
No, thank
Perfect.
you all for
Okay.
considering.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item 8D. Give people a couple minutes to head out if they want to. Give them a minute to clear out, and then if, is this Kendra now?
Richard Josh talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I think it's,
Okay, Natalie?
Alright, so our next item is a preliminary plat application for Heather Meadows Third Edition, which is an open space and preservation plat. Next slide. The applicant is Mark and Marcus Lee of ML Unlimited, and the OSMP is proposed on 88.22 acres near Oakdale Drive and Heather Lane. They are proposing 12 buildable lots for single-family homes and 2 open space outlots comprising about 44.8 acres. These outlots will continue to be farmed by the applicant. As part of the request, they will also need a conditional use permit to allow for agricultural buildings exceeding the by right footprint on a 4-acre parcel. And that is called out specifically as a conditional use when the parcel less than 10 acres is adjacent to an actively farmed land under the same ownership. And there are 3 variances that would have to be approved for the plat as well, including a variance from the requirement that OSMP lots must front on an internal paved street because 2 of the lots for 2 existing homes would be served by Oakdale Drive. And then the OSMP requirement for a 100-foot buffer on the perimeter of the site where it abuts an existing public street. Again, that would need to be applied on Oakdale Drive, and there are the 2 existing homes and some other structures do cause a conflict with that requirement. Finally, they will also need a variance for a 100-foot setback for an agricultural structure on Lot 1 of Block 5. Next slide. So for some additional context, this plat consists of 3 existing properties. A 0.39 acre parcel in the north, and that does have 1 implied development right due to the existing house that predates the development rights. Program a 52